Always a pleasure, Dr. Omar. Hello to you. Hope you've been keeping well. Let's talk a little bit, if we can, before we talk about Child Protection Week. Let's talk about this call for the passing of the Liquor Amendment Bill. When we say that teaching the youth is not enough, what do we mean by that? What else could we possibly do?
Well, I think we need to understand the relationship between alcohol and trauma, and I think the impact it has on the well-being, not only the physical well-being, but the mental well-being of children and society. And something that we have to take cognizance of is during the lockdown, when COVID-19 hits South Africa, we saw an increased incidence of alcohol trauma-induced injuries inflicted on children and women. And I think, of course, we need to realize that it's time for action, but the reality is that the legislation does not make provision for that. Whilst more and more children are victims of trauma as a result of alcohol, we are finding that, you know, the people are just enjoying consuming alcohol. And some of the responses that have been elicited by people is that that's the only way they can relax, or it makes them feel numb. It's an escapism from reality. And we've seen lots of, if we look at the December period where Chris Hani Hospital indicated that their beds were free because of the stricter legislation on the sale of alcohol, we need to realize that it calls for action. And of course, the action has to be made and taken on by government.
Dr. Omar, are you able to just add some meat to the bone on what the amendment bill is actually calling for? I think because you and I have had this conversation for years, haven't we, about households that have got the parents who are drinking too much, the children see what happens to the parents when they drink too much, they learn that behavior, they then start drinking, and so the cycle continues. Practically, what do you think this amendment is hoping to achieve? And can you tell me what they're actually hoping to amend in this liquor amendment bill? Is it a change to the age? Is it a change to the availability?
Well, I think it's yes. So firstly, one needs to be aware of the fact that if we just look at the sale of alcohol, the stricter legislation on the sale of alcohol, well, we need to increase taxes. Alcohol is not something that, when one is thirsty, one drinks water. So it's not stopping people from drinking alcohol. This legislation or the amendment does not speak to the stopping or refraining people from drinking alcohol. But I think it's looking at increased taxation, but also looking at the increased age of the sale of alcohol, where currently it's 18 years, but we look, obviously looking at older, increasing it to 21 years old, but also looking at the fact that South Africa is a binge drinking society where 25% of the population are found to be binge drinkers. So looking at stricter legislation in terms of the sale of alcohol, say over the weekends and end of the month when people have access to money. And of course, zero tolerance for people whilst driving the consumption of alcohol. So there should be harsher measures put into place. So I think this is an overview of what is expected and requested. It's not saying, and of course, looking at the advertising industry as well, the normalizing, the valorizing and glamorizing of alcohol, that life cannot be fun. Nobody can enjoy any setting or situation without the consumption of alcohol. So that needs to be managed also more adequately and appropriately.
Dr. Omar, just before I say goodbye to you in the last 30 seconds or so I have with you, just your thoughts on child protection last week. Were you happy with the attention it received? And do you think, at least with the conversations that have been had this year, do you think we might see a difference in child protection in 2021, just before I say goodbye to you?
So child protection is important, just highlighting the importance of it and of course, making people more aware and sensitizing people. But Child Protection Week should not just be a week. It should be every day, every second, every hour. We need to remind people that it is the right of every child to be protected and safe and secure. And this should be an ongoing 365-day campaign.
I appreciate your time. It's always such a pleasure speaking to you, able to speak to so many perspectives of child protection. Dr. Shaheda Omar from the Teddy Bear Foundation joining us. Calls for the passing of the Liquor Amendment Bill. The doctor explained to us what that could look like if it comes